The film opens on the Wonder Wharf at night. A struggle is seen in shadows among the carnival toys, and moments later, a gunshot is fired, and a body can be heard dropping. 6 years later in the present day, we come to the Bob's Burgers restaurant, where the Belcher family is getting ready for the day. Bob, John Benjamin, and his wife Linda, John Roberts, are getting ready to see a loan officer from the bank. Kids Tina, Dan Mintz, Jean, Eugene Meerman, and Louise, Kristen Schaal, are getting ready for their final week of classes before summer vacation, for which they all have big plans, sunny side up summer. Bob just wants business to run well for the summer, especially since the wharf is celebrating an anniversary. Tina wants her longtime crush Jimmy Jr., also John Benjamin, to be her summer boyfriend. Jean is anticipating a show he is set to perform in, while Louise wants to not be seen as a baby, especially since her classmate Chloe Barbash, Stephanie Beatriz, made fun of the pink bunny ears Louise always wears since Louise would not do a school stunt that would cause her to lose the ears. Tina has a fantasy about riding horses with Jimmy Jr. and getting him to ride with his pants off, and she worries that the reality of being with Jimmy Jr. would not match her fantasy. Jean wants his friends and family gathered for a musical performance from his group, the Itty Bitty Ditty Committee. Bob and Linda arrive at the bank, but the loan officer immediately rejects their loan application, as well as the burger that Bob prepared for him. He tells Bob that they have 1 week to get money for their business to stay afloat. Bob is left stressed out over the situation, and although the family tries to cheer him up, things take a turn for the worse when they hear a noise from outside and see a sinkhole open up in front of the restaurant, which prevents anyone from entering the place. The Belcher's landlord, Calvin Fitzchoder, Kevin Klein, shows up to the scene with his brother Felix, Zach Galifianakis, and their cousin Lawyer Grover, David Wayne, and Calvin agrees to let the Belchers withhold on rent for now until business gets better. After more than a day, Bob is dismayed that the restaurant is losing business. Meanwhile, Louise sees an opportunity to shed the baby image and has Tina and Jean help her record a video where she tries climbing down the sinkhole. She ends up slipping, and when she tries to get herself out, she finds a skeleton inside and has some of its teeth fall in her mouth. The skeleton is taken out and is later identified as a carny named Cotton Candy Dan, the man killed in the opening scene. The Belchers think that the body being found will resolve some of their issues, but it only makes things worse because Calvin is under arrest on suspicion of him being Dan's murderer. Louise also takes one of the teeth to school, even though it's evidence, to show it off to the other kids. However, Chloe still mocks her and says she is a child, which makes her mad. The Belchers' friend Teddy, Larry Murphy, builds Bob a cart so that he and Linda can sell burgers on the street. Linda makes herself a sexy burger costume to help Bob. Since they don't have a license to sell, they have to do it in secret while trying to attract business. Bob, Linda, and Teddy all have to hide when Bob's health inspector nemesis Hugo, Sam Sader, and his partner Ron Lynch, come around the wharf. Louise convinces Tina and Jean to skip school so they can find proof that Calvin is actually innocent of murder. They come across a secret carny society, Carnotopia, to try and find answers. The kids talk to their friend, Petty Crook Mickey, John Q. Cuban, and they ask around. The carnies get defensive when Louise insinuates that one of them could have killed Cotton Candy Dan, Lucky Ducks, and they give the kids no information. As the trio leave, a bigger carny follows them and says that the last time Dan was seen, he was with Felix, leading the kids to think he might be the real murderer. The kids go to Felix's extravagant treehouse and hide when he gets there. They overhear him talking to his ex-wife about getting back together with her and planning to leave the country. The three then follow him as he makes his way toward the wharf. Bob, Linda, and Teddy continue to try and do business, but they ruin things when they accidentally run over a shrine dedicated to Cotton Candy Dan. After outrunning angry carnies, Bob expresses his worries to Linda about being able to keep the business running, but Linda tries to keep his spirits up. They then spot the kids' bikes and go looking for them. The kids follow Felix toward the Mole Hill ride on the wharf. Jean presses a button that sends him and his sisters down a slide which holds a secret hideout for the Fitzchoders. Calvin and Felix are both there, since the former was released due to a lack of evidence against him. Just as the kids try to tell him that Felix is a traitorous killer, Grover shows up to settle the brothers' affairs. Louise then notices a photo of the Fitzchoders and sees Grover in it with a cufflink similar to the one they found in Felix's treehouse. On Grover's wrist is also a bite mark matching the teeth on the skeleton. Louise realizes Grover is the killer. After he is found out, he holds everyone up with a crossbow, just as Bob and Linda end up falling down. Grover explains himself, not that evil, saying that he originally planned to build a mega park over the Wonder Wharf 6 years earlier and had killed Dan in a scuffle. He tried to get rid of Dan's body on the wharf in the hopes that it would get shut down so his plan would go into effect, but the construction worker in the area scooped up the dirt with Dan's body and dumped it in the hole in front of Bob's restaurant. Grover tries to trap Calvin and Felix in a submarine while setting fire to the wharf in an attempt to blame them for it. The Belchers get away and find a small go-kart vehicle to try and flee, but Grover catches them and uses a bulldozer to push them into a hole and begin to bury them alive. The Belchers bemoan their situation, and Louise blames herself for everything, saying that none of this would have happened if she wasn't obsessed with trying to be seen as brave and mature without her hat. Bob and Linda then tell Louise to not be upset about it and explain the origin of her bunny ears. It was inspired by Bob's late mother's own knitted hat, and Linda made them for Louise after her first day of school. Just as Linda fears this is the end for them, Bob reaches deep within himself and hits the pedal on the go-kart, causing a pipe to break that sends them back to the surface, where they find Teddy waiting for them. The Belchers report everything to the cops. He goes to try and free Calvin and Felix, but his family and Teddy follow him. Bob and Louise manage to stop the lit fuse that would engulf the wharf, and they manage to locate Calvin and Felix to free them. Sergeant Bosco, Gary Cole, and his squad locate Grover and arrest him. Later on, the sinkhole is filled up, and business is able to return to normal for Bob's Burgers. Calvin rewards them for their help with a single month's worth of rent. Tina admits her feelings to Jimmy Jr. and kisses him. Louise does the school stunt and drops her hat, which she is okay with, though we still never see her without her ears. Gene goes on with his performance, but it has a small turnout. The Belchers then reopen their restaurant together as a family. After the credits, another fantasy of Tina's is shown, where she is riding horses with Jimmy Jr. and some zombies.